when you're working on something and it's not done. So I've got like wireless gear, like Ubiquiti wireless gear, like ready to get taken out and assembled.
You're ready for action.
You're
I'm like,
up your own ISP,
don't
right?
want to do the news. I'm just like, well, there's stuff over there, and I get to use a chainsaw. That's the type of work that I'm doing. I have to fell some trees to get a clear line of sight from the closet with the fiber optics down to the shop where I'm teaching my class. So,
do you just fell trees with your glare, like piercing glare, or do you like?
It doesn't work. Yeah, they don't care.
What SANS course covers this?
Felling of trees. I think the
Logs.
only SANS course that ever covered cutting down trees was SANS 504 when I taught it. Because I always talked about, like, it used to be, I don't know if you guys remember, but a long time ago in Metasploit, if you were in a shell from an interpreter session and you hit Control-C, it actually terminated your entire interpreter session.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that that's kind of like, putting your ladder up on a limb, going up on a ladder with a chainsaw and then chopping off that limb. And then I tell the story of the time that I actually did that and fell into like a snowbank. And I was like, that is the dumbest effing thing I've ever done. And I'm glad no one saw it. And my wife came out the door and yelled, I totally saw that.
Sadly, this is in the days before security cameras captured all these moments for viral.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's on the ring where he cut himself horribly.
I will never cancel my Ring subscription now.
You'll never cancel it. It's worth too many.
I am law enforcement now. I'd like to make a request.
You don't even have to be. You just make the request. They'll give it to you.
Yeah, they'll get it. They'll get it for you. But yeah, that was the chainsaw story that was in 504 that I talked about. So I didn't get into trouble for that one, but I got in trouble for other stories, which we can talk about on the other side of the crooked finger. Bring it on in, Ryan.
Yep.
He wasn't ready.
Oh,
I wasn't.
Go to Data Hunter for the intro. Okay, I guess it's me. Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of Black Hills Information Security, talking about news. In this particular edition, there's all kinds of breaches, all kinds of botnets, all kinds of crazy things going on. We'll go through those stories here in a little bit, but I have an illustrious cast that has joined me in wonderful 1080p. We have Ryan making us look good and at times smell good. We have Chris has joined us.
I don't know how I
so
do
confused,
that.
dude.
Okay.
Just roll with it. Mike is with us again. Mustache and Wade is with us. The data herder is here. What is that? Chambuca?
It's Chambuca from Dr. Brew.
It's not kombucha. It's chambucha.
So,
Don't question it. It's probiotic. It helps your security.
Very healthy.
Yes. It'll clean
It's
you
not
out.
just sugar, okay?
Yeah, kombucha is a lonely man's game. It'll clean you out, leave you feeling hollow inside, like Draymond. Jennifer is with us as well. I got just calling on her as she's taking a drink, which is great, from the Secure Ideas family. So big shout out to Secure Ideas. We're so happy that you're here, and Kevin is not. We also have. By the way, Jennifer, did you know that today is Kevin's birthday?
Oh, I have to make sure to call him as soon as I'm done with this.
Yeah, everybody who's listening to this live, Darth Kevin, it's his birthday today.
Send him a cake.
Sure to let Kevin know that you wish him a happy birthday. BSD, semi-regular guest host, let's call that, is with us as well. And John Hammond is with us as well in his amazing dark room.
I need
the void.
Void.
I can't remember. Is that 0000? Like, what is that black color? Is it like it's all zeros?
Are we talking RGB or hex?
Your chroma key is on point.
It is very solid. If it was any darker, it would be a singularity, and we would not be able to escape.
You should start like a YouTube channel or something.
Sure.
Do you think it would go well though? Like that? I don't know.
That's true.
So
People
many
want to see the
security YouTubes
background.
out there, you know?
They want to see the background. You got
This is the background.
That is
Black wall.
It's from a black hole. They ran a count.
How far back is it really?
Did you
Go back
get
there.
Vanta
Literally
Black?
nothing there.
Is it like Vanta Black, that like the blackest color ever?
Yes, they have a whole advertisement. I could just see him getting up and running into like the hall, like just
He just keeps running,
He
going
just
back
keeps
further and
going.
further.
like, all right, well, he's definitely good.
Yeah. Cloud Kicker said, "Great seeing you at DEF CON, John. And I know that that's you and not me because I'm an old man and I've completely filled up my DEF CONs. I have no more DEF CONs. Look at my field. There's no more DEF CONs to give.
You should go, but you should go incognito, like
Yes.
in a costume.
Hang out with Jack.
Yes,
wear
hang out with Jack the
costumes.
whole time and do not like just use a different name.
It'd be
I
like
was
the
thinking more
Masked
like
Singers
Michelin
with
Man, you know, like
infosec.
an actual costume.
You know, if we did that all in costumes, and then everybody at the end of DEF CON would like take off their costumes, I'd be like the Val Kilmer of Batman. They'd be like, is he famous for something?
Is this like it's like the masked hacker, like the
I
masked
don't know
singer?
that
but-
guy. I don't know.
You should do
who
what
that-
Bryan Cranston did when he went to one of those Comic Cons. He got a mask made of Walter White. And
Yeah,
went
and he was
there with the
pretending
mask.
to be a Walter
and then
White guy. That
He
was
walked through and he pulled it off
it
after.
was so good. It was so
Wow.
good. So, and apparently we have stories today on September 11th. I did want to take a few seconds and just call out it is September 11th, as a lot of people are painfully aware. And yes, we are doing the show. I can't remember. I was watching a show and it was talking about, you don't want to shut your entire life down because of bad things that happened. And my great aunt, talking about September 11th and bad things and all of this stuff. She's kind of like a grandmother for me because I lost my grandmother on my mom's side when I was like 1. And she's always been a surrogate grandmother. And whenever she had children, she lost 3 children in one car accident. A drunk driver came up off the street, hit the curb, and killed 3 of her children all in one shot. And it was very, very hard on her. It was very traumatic. But the whole life that I remember with her was she was always vibrant, always very happy, always just so exuberant. And one of the things she said, and I think it sticks with me constantly anytime anything bad happens, especially with something like September 11th and those types of things, is we have to be happy now because we will have to be sad again. And that was a quote that always stuck with me. And I think that we have to continue moving on. We have to continue doing the best we can because eventually something else bad will happen. And we'll deal with that as we did with September 11th. So no, we are doing the show today. So I know that in the past, whenever we've done shows or webcasts, there's been some people that are offended. And I don't want to say that those people are wrong. We totally understand that. And one of the things I think is important whenever we're looking at computer security is trying to understand just how important computer security actually is and how it ties into this greater thing that we joke about on a weekly basis. All right. So whenever we're looking at September 11th, right, wrong, or indifferent, however you look at it, after September 11th, I have to go through like a scanner with my children, and I had to explain to my children as they grew up, safe touch, bad touch, good touch, and TSA touch to small children. And that's something that bothers me. And I use that as an example because I want you to understand that what we do in computer security is incredibly important. Because if we screw up in computer security, if we ever get to a situation where there is a cyber attack, where there's a tremendous loss of life on the scale of like September 11th, and people joke about cyber 9/11 or those types of things, that is absolutely a possibility. That is absolutely a real thing that could happen. If that happens, we're then going to have a bunch of people, bureaucrats from around the world that try to solve this problem for us. And I'm not worried about any like tyrannical governments or parties or anything as it exists today per se. But my fear is the solutions that they put into the problems don't actually make us more secure whenever we get onto an airplane. They don't make things better and safer for my children whenever they pat down a 13-year-old girl in front of her parents, and I can't do a damn thing about it. It doesn't make anything safer for me because I travel way more than I really, really should. And I have been fondled multiple times in inappropriate ways. And I'm a dude, and I can only imagine what that's been for some women out there. I can only imagine what would happen if we actually fail at this thing of computer security, at what we do in computer security. And we fail in such a way that people who do not understand technology, people that do not understand cyber risks, people that do not understand hacks at all, step in to solve these problems for us. So while we joke about things like today, while we remember the people that we lost, and I lost friends on September 11th, and I know a lot of you lost friends, the worst thing that we can do is stop the fight. The worst thing that we can do is continue to allow things to slip and get in InfoSec theater solutions that don't actually solve any of our problems. So yes, I wanted to take a few moments to acknowledge and honor the friends and family members that many of us lost on September 11th. But at the exact same time, I want us to remember that we have to be happy today, because someday we're going to have to be sad again. We have to work hard today. We have to do the best we can in computer security today, because we're trying to foresaw disaster that we're going to have to deal with in the future. So with that, let's get back to this regularly scheduled show, and we'll come back to it, and let's try to bring things off the floor. And the
good news is this week we're not talking about Cyber 9/11. We're talking about a hilarious email thread.
Let's move on.
Reply all. All right.
What is said hilarious?
I love these. These are my favorite stories because I've gotten plenty hands-on with these in the government. It is so much fun. Like,
okay.
Not to be.
Tell us about it. Tell us about the story.
No,
what's
give it to
going
John.
on here?
It's John's.
Yeah. So yeah. So this is really John's story, right? But the AT&T.
Not you, John. Other John.
Wrong John.
Oh, the other John.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
John's like, John.
I swear this is
Totally not confusing.
John from the
So
void.
if you want to take off with this, John, with the
please tell us. Yeah.
Oh goodness, I'll do my best. Well, hey, yeah, there was some funny, silly shenanigans, and I think oopsie. What was the start of this week or last week? Today's Monday. That's the thing. We a friend of mine, a colleague and a peer, received an email from AT&T. There was just some like regularly scheduled maintenance program update stuff, and they just thought it was odd because I don't know, they didn't really expect that for one thing, and then they kind of got to see the to field in the email, and it looked like a really interesting email address because it was do not use pod1 non and it's odd to see an email address from do not use pod1. So curious innocent human curiosity says, well, can I email that email address? And they did, and they say, I don't know, is anyone else going to receive this? This is just a test. Hey, I'm sending out some feelers. How many folks get this email? And it suddenly spawns this snowball effect of, the reply all storm that you can liken to, I'm sure you've seen in, I don't know, either horror stories of Microsoft Bedlam or just in any of your own corporate office environments where you folks are saying, why am I on this email list? Please remove me from this email list.
And then it
sent
just
to everyone.
exploded?
Paradox. Yeah.
My favorite one is in like the government or like in the military when someone like really high up puts all caps, do not reply to this email. Like, this is somehow going to solve the problem. Like, this is it. They got it. All right. We're all going to stop here. It's so
I had one of those in a pen test that I sent in, and like the CEO got it, and he responded to everyone in the company and said, absolutely do not click the link in this email. It is an attack. And I got like 4 more people. It was No.
We had a couple of the like support tickets from different companies like respond to it and say, hey, your request has been received. We'll get back to you in however many times.
So John, what happened when everyone started getting this email though? Right?
So it's hard to know for sure because I'll admit we haven't heard anything from the AT&T side.
No.
I tested
really nothing. Radio silence.
I'm gonna go point it at Alex, the individual that was kind of dealing with this, and I'm like, hey, I'll be a megaphone because I think this is a wild story. I tried to send an email to it to see, hey, can I see this in action? And at that point, it got the subsystem delivery failed. I think they kind of remedied and fixed things. But he and others, I think, were getting that same message failure for like an hour later. And I think it had a certain bog down and may very well have slowed down the servers. I don't know for sure.
So okay, this is historic for being the first data breach that you can opt into. Usually you have to like opt out, but this one is like, so that's basically the upshot of it, right? Is that it's an anonymous email list, but if anyone that replies exposes their name, email signature, corporate, whatever. So it's like, yeah, I'd like to opt into this data breach. Let me reply with my witty remark.
Is this one of those cases where they didn't need an unsubscribe?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I did see in the article that that people were starting to reply with like messages for their like YouTube channel or whatever it may be, right? Like trying to like advertise.
Oh yeah.
If you would have thrown in like if you would have thrown in like a web bug or some type of tracking in there, just real quick and seen
to see where it went,
to see how far of a distance all of the clicks were, and have some more fun with it. And then make it a Rickroll. Why not?
This entire thing, like we know that there's some technical failings in this, but is this pretty much where everything failed? Like user awareness failed, the technical gateway filters failed. Like it sounds like everything failed in this particular one. Or was there a silver lining? They're like, well, and then they caught it and it was all good.
I also love how the do not use, it's like some exchange admin's like, if someone hits this, it's going to be bad. But they're like, we can't disable it, so we'll just set it to do not use.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing about this is that I read that article, and then I had just read about the Senate also had the exact same problem, right? This is like classic government, except for, and their problem, it was just somebody replying like they had a distro list that you shouldn't be able to send to, and then people start replying to. And in their case, typical of the government, it just crashed the email server. So they just couldn't send email at all, which I've seen this happen multiple times with misconfigured exchange in the government, right?
I mean, well, it says it was a security test. What is that like, kind of like the Hawaii missile test? What does that mean?
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, what was that 2 years ago now?
What is a security test that targets the Senate? Also,
test.
how do you do scoping when you're like, all right, the targets are U.S. Senate? Like, what are you going to fish? What are you going to do?
Oh gosh! Hey, I got these extra votes.
See who clicks.
Hey-o.
So it looks like this is just a super easy fix, just literally a checkbox when you created the distribution list. And
so you can also make it where, in both cases, you could have fixed this entirely right from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the distro list, you shouldn't be able to reply. You can just make it so you can't reply all to these or reply all to them. So yeah, this is easy to fix, but it is funny when it happens, and I've just seen it happen. Like you just kind of see it, and you're just getting these emails like, "Why, dude? The reason it's getting so bad is you keep replying."
But I don't think that's the silver lining. Like I'm trying to find a silver lining, right? Like the fact that it was lucky number seven.
John, the silver lining is our senators can use email.
Oh,
that is actually the silver lining.
It's confirmed now.
I still don't know.
It's a good way of looking at that,
man. I still don't know if that's a silver
I don't know. Taking away their email probably is a better way of going about things.
Well, I mean, maybe somebody else sends the email.
Just go back to printing all of their emails.
They print everything out. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. You would be shocked and or amazed how that is like the de facto way that many senators run.
Well, I'm not, because they were born before 1900. So
they're like, "Where's the telex? Where's the telex? How do I get my email?"
This technology is absolutely new to them, John. It's new to them.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what other? I think we had those first two stories. Go ahead.
Some good iPhone stuff.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of stuff.
We can do some mobile stuff. I mean, there's also apparently fake Telegram apps, and like this just feels like an article from 10 years ago. It's like, didn't Google solve this? Like with the whole grep run strings and grep for malware on apps. Like, is it that hard? Apparently, it is.
Let's go to that one. The Telegram apps. Was that in the Android store where those came in?
Yeah, again, it's always Android, because Apple's like, sorry, your app has to have a white glove treatment and be approved by one of our...
It's like a double TSA kind of moment, right? With all the Apple apps.
No. The Android is the TSA. Apple's more like the VIP guy at the door of a popular bar.
As long as you tip him high,
I want to bring in Jennifer, because she's got a class starting up tomorrow. Is that right?
Yeah.
Freaking tomorrow. We got you on today for a class tomorrow. Okay. So whenever we're talking about, like, you're teaching API security, right? And
yes,
I always look at like mobile testing and API testing are very much like peanut butter and chocolate, or peanut butter and slightly chunkier peanut butter. Why? Like, okay, so whenever we're looking at like Android, why do you think that like that Android ecosystem, or why are these apps like it's so easy to upload malicious apps or so hard to do computer security in this app API space?
One, as far as the least APIs go, one of the things that I have noticed more often than not after doing pen testing APIs for several years is that sometimes people set up stuff that maybe they aren't super familiar with, for lack of better words.
Using like an API library, right? Like you're going to use this library, you're going to use 4 calls on the API, but there's like 50 of them. And like, 4 of those are like full admin access to absolutely everything, right? So
that, and I think probably because in the grand scheme of things, especially with mobile apps, this is something that I encountered, especially whenever I was in college and I was trying to teach like beginner like computer courses, is that we found a lot of people were just using their phones for everything, like writing essays or watching TV, or people are more and more reliant on their phones more than computers or TVs or anything else. And so they're a really prime target for threat actors.
Well,
and the sheer number of people that are producing stuff for it also means that there's more areas.
And it's not an easy platform to test, right? Like anytime you get someone that's like, oh, well, it's super easy. All that you need to do is first set up a proxy, set up a VPN. Then you need to import the certificate in your specific device. And then you got to proxy all that traffic through Burp. And then it's just like, no, I'm setting something up with a class that we're using Corellium for Android pen testing. I see Cameron jumped off, but she's one of the main authors of that. And it's just to get to the point where you can actually start doing testing. And even with like API testing, there's so many tests where they're like, well, it's running on this port, 54326 or something like that. And you're like, okay, I need your Swagger documentation. I need some more than that. And just getting what you need to do that testing is like pulling teeth in most situations.
It is. And there's been a lot of tests where I was lucky to even get like just the names of the endpoints. Like there was no documentation. I had to like brute force my way to figuring out. Yeah.
So Hackar said can't install custom CA on the newest Android. I don't know if that's true. If somebody could verify that. I made the mistake and I switched over to iPhone and I've been regretting it ever since. So
well, you shouldn't. I mean, honestly, the question I have is, how does this still happen? Like, how have we not figured this out yet? It's crazy.
There's too many apps. There's too many apps. That's the problem.
Why? But why?
Why are there too many apps?
If you're Android, why be like, yeah, we could use another Telegram. We already have the one Telegram. But what about second Telegram? It's like, no, if it's called Telegram, just don't let it. Like, I don't know. Can't you just be like, this is the one?
Wait a minute. I can kind of answer that. But look at what happened with Reddit. Right? God help me, I'm talking about Reddit. Don't go there, kids. It's like, right? But what happened with Reddit is Reddit had a bunch of third-party Reddit apps. And they decided that they were going to shut down the integration with a bunch of those Reddit apps. And I think that they're still rebelling on Reddit to this day, right? So it isn't, and that gets into like the API thing, right? Like if you're going to use Reddit on your phone, and people are like, but there's this app that still hooks into Reddit, but it's way better. And that's how you get into these secondary telegrams, these secondary Reddit things, and all of that stuff that I think is just kind of insane.
You're probably right. It's just funny to me that like you could make basically an exact, like even just as a security, analyst, anyone sitting in this Discord or on this show could think of ways. Let's say if the icon is the exact same, maybe you just don't let it in, or like things like that. Like it wouldn't be that hard to write some heuristics for it. My guess is it's an AI and they don't know how to program. They don't like it went. It screwed up and they don't know how because, large whatever AI models are confusing. And they're just like, I mean, it's the same thing with the YouTube algorithm where it's like an abusive relationship where it's like, hey, you should have this right now. And it's like, what? Some guy drinking malt liquor. I mean, I don't really need this in my feed, but thank you. So I don't know. I have no idea, but it's just, it seems like a story from 10 years ago. You just throw malware in the Android store now, I guess.
Well, you get them in iOS as well. What about this zero-click iMessage exploit?
Oh, that was a new one.
Yeah. This one's NSO
That
group.
was a feature, okay?
That was a feature. They just had to turn it on.
It just works.
Works better, yes. So When did they fix this? It was couple like last week, right?
It was one of their emergency security patches.
Yeah.
Oh, it has a cool name,
right?
Yeah,
it's a cool name.
It's a cool name.
BLASTPASS.
Oh, I like that.
Is it sponsored by LastPass? TM?
No, because then it would definitely not work.
Oh, no, it would work. It would just use ECB.
Sorry, that was a low blow.
I got a question for y'all. How many clickless 0 days do you think NSO has? Like, how many deep? Do you think this is it, or do you think that they had a couple? You think they have 6?
Exactly 6.
Educated guess.
Now they're down to 5, or they went from 7?
Now they're down to 5, but they're working on 2 more.
Yeah,
they always have 6. It's just a constant 6. Like, okay, we don't have 6 anymore. We need a new one, and then
just imagine someone from Apple trying to buy a subscription to NSO Group. Like, they got like a fake mustache. Like, hello, yes, I'm a totally legit.
It's 2 people standing on each other's shoulders.
Like, third world country despotic dictator who would like to purchase your products. It's like, but you're wearing a turtleneck and jeans. We know who you are.
You live in San Jose.
Yeah, you're coming from San Jose. No.
That's just the VPN I use.
I'm coming from Kazakhstan. Is nice.
So, I mean, look to the bright side. These are expensive exploits. So not just anyone can get them. Only really bad people, right?
Is there
so what was the actual exploit?
For now,
I'm going to kick this over to John. Has there been a write-up of this exploit?
For
like a full write-up of what it was actually exploiting. I mean, we got the CVEs for them.
I am not aware of one personally, but I mean, there very well could be. I haven't seen one.
Oh my God. This is such a horrible article.
It's Citizen Lab, so this is like NSO group level stuff. Yeah.
Like a nice technical analysis. Citizen Lab was looking at it. They usually
so it was an exploit in the what do you call it? There was an exploit in iMessage. It was an attachment as a photo.
Passkit. Yeah.
And then that triggered the exploit. So, which it's, I'm like trivializing this whole entire thing, to make it sound like, oh yeah, you just, do that. It was no big deal.
It's just simple.
Yeah, it's super simple. It was not.
It's a few steps.
Yeah.
A few steps.
Yada, yada, 0-click iPhone exploit.
Yeah. And then you can just read everything.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Okay. So the reason why I'm harping on this is Citizen Lab usually does really nice details on these things. And they haven't, which makes me kind of lean towards believing that there's probably more to it. What I mean by that is, like, if you remember whenever Java had vulnerabilities or Adobe had vulnerabilities, once they started going into like
Pandora's box.
It opens up Pandora's box, which makes me think that they've probably been communicating with Apple, and Apple's like, oh my God, Passkit or whatever, it exploited as a total train wreck. Please don't do a write-up
yet. I believe the emergency patches are specifically for actively exploited. I don't know if that's like a hard requirement, but I think that's...
And interestingly, they also say that it would be prevented by lockdown mode, which is kind of cool. So they have that sort of like, they're like, that's the fallback. It's like end-to-end encryption or MFA or whatever, where it's like, yeah, the exploit sucks, but at least fallback mode or whatever it's called, lockdown mode would have detected.
So lockdown mode was...
This mode that 99.9% of the population does not use will work.
It's designed for like high
journalists. Yeah, it's designed, but that's who's being targeted, dude. If someone's paying the NSO licensing fees, they're not targeting me. They're targeting Walmart, whatever. I don't know. But
and the thing that gets me about this is, the exploit itself is interesting, of course. Like anytime there's a 0-click, but not enough people are talking about like what NSO Group can do for targeting. Like what they're doing through malvertisements and being able to draw, like you can just say circle around this particular building, and I want person that goes to these 5 websites. So even if you're like using burner phones, they can still like identify you relatively easily, as long as you're like doing a standard pattern of life that you normally have for the websites that you go to as well.
Yeah, I don't know
if
the
last Darknet Diaries.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Right? It's just funny because the exploit he talks about in that show, which is used by the Predator malware, which is kind of like the brother malware to the NSO group, but basically that one required you to click the link. So we've actually gone backwards. That's not good. Yeah.
Still 0-click anytime. Like there's something bad under the hood that Apple's got to work on. Like I can almost guarantee you, like I said, if Citizen Lab isn't doing like a full write-up, and like doing full details, that means that they're concerned enough to not release enough details so that people can do follow-on exploits.
Or they just don't want to get sued into oblivion by Apple. 50-50 chance.
You know what's funny? I don't know if Citizen Lab gives a shit about that, but maybe they do.
They're Canadian. That's like their thing. They're like, we're Canadian. We can't get sued that hard.
Exactly.
What is it? Speaking of privacy, and to pick on Apple one last time, they are abandoning the CSAM. You guys remember that?
The on-device CSAM detection thing we talked about?
Yes. So this is scanning for like, I think it's like child pornography or pornography.
Oh, that.
Right? Yeah.
Where's the linky?
Give
us the linky.
9 to 5. Yeah, here it is. Anyways, so yeah, they're scanning for.
I see.
They've abandoned it because as we probably said on the news, I wish we could like go back and talk about when we talked about this.
It was a privacy thing. Yeah, if someone was editing the video, put the little transition with like the weird.
Yeah, with the little icon and then also the bell and the subscribe and stuff. But anyways, the funny thing was I'm sure we talked about this, but the reason they're stopping it is because they pretty much admitted that you could use this for anything, right? So as we kind of already knew, like you could just be like, oh, well, we're not going to do other kinds of like targeting with this. So anyway.
So it's interesting because it kind of, I feel like it kind of makes them backtrack on what they said, like implying, oh, it's on device only. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not centrally managed, but then they're dialing it back because it's too centrally managed and can be abused.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it bypasses their encryption too, because now they're making identifiers for certain kinds of content, and then you can use it for other things, and then
See, but this gets into like something we talked about briefly, or I talked about briefly at the beginning of the show with like government and what kind of tools and how that all works, and it's like the thing that sticks out for me was the San Bernardino shootings back in 2015, right? Like the week going up to like San Bernardino, everyone was talking about Facebook, everyone was talking about privacy and how are we going to stay private and how are we going to protect ourselves online and all this stuff. San Bernardino attack happens, and if you remember, they were trying to break into their iPhones, and I guess that they were coordinating and they were talking about the attack that they were going to do on Facebook, and almost immediately all the talking heads on like all the major news sources were like, how come we don't have the ability in the government to actually see what they're saying on Facebook and track whenever terrorists are planning these types of things? And you seriously cannot have both, right? You cannot have a situation where you have the government that's monitoring everything to keep us safe and have privacy at the exact same time. Like,
well, you just need monitors who are monitoring the monitors.
Yeah, then you just got
who's watching the watchers?
Before too long, dude. It's turtles.
The same thing.
It's turtles all the way down. What's that?
Who's watching the watchers?
Yes. You need at least 6 watchers to make sure everything's going.
At least 6.
Yeah. Well, it's 6 exploits.
6 watchers.
Yeah, 1 exploit per watcher. And then if they use it, they have to sign a document that says, I totally am authorized to do this. Check the box that says other.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. That we did talk about that.
Reasoning, ASDF. Reasoning was ASDF.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, so basically the news article exists because in a statement to Wire, Apple's Director of User Privacy and Child Safety, which is someone's job title, it's like, no, that kid just fell over. I got this. Is your knee hurt? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's basically they said it would inject the potential for a slippery slope of unintended consequences. Scanning for one type of content opens the door for bulk surveillance. I also think it probably doesn't play super nice with their end-to-end encryption that they put on, like with enhanced privacy.
We don't read your data unless...
Yeah, we don't read your data unless the government tells us we're allowed to.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
And it's kind of like there was a news story that came out, I think, this last week as well. I don't think it's in our thing, where facial recognition software, where they literally just with what your phone and the camera, like Facebook and Google both had technology where you could walk around and scan people's faces and it would tell you who they are and basically pull posts from those people. And both Google and Facebook were like, ooh, that's a line too far. And
but Amazon was like, hell yeah, we can monetize this.
Like, oh, yeah. Leroy Jenkins, this software development life cycle.
So, okay, someone in chat, Rainer, I don't know, said the government can't even protect auth keys that are used to issue tokens from their own Office 365. So this brings up, I don't know if we talked about this on the news. Did we talk about this?
I'm calling cap on that. Totally was not the government's fault.
So that's what I wanted to bring up because I don't know if we covered it. Basically, more details have come out. If someone can go find the link, but basically they said they thought it was from a memory dump or something.
Yeah, crash dump.
Yeah,
a crash dump that dumped to like a lower security. I don't know how they got access to the crash dump, but
that's again what I'm saying. It's like what was it submitted?
That's so interesting. It's like just take the whole memory and like these.
I'm thinking like Google Analytics. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Like, is it like the crash dump submits to like some third party? I don't know.
No, I thought I read that it was a employee got compromised, right?
Yeah.
Was that it? Right?
No.
With Microsoft with the key. Now I got to go look for this article because I'm either making.
We'll defer it to Rainer Ronner. He knows. He's on the ball.
They did clarify. It was unclear. It was
I don't know your gender. But.
Yeah, but the point remains. Yeah, that's true. I'm not. His point is still valid, but just not in this situation. You know.
Yeah.
So there you
crash, dump, and burn.
Yeah, totally. And
yeah.
And I have two things about this that I talked about on the webcast last week. The first thing is mad respect to the attackers. Like the tenacity to be able to go through a crash dump and then pull certificates out of that crash dump. Like, I just want you all to know, from me to you, those of you in China, ni hao ma, wawaling, just chef's kiss.
No, we can do that with Snaffler, John. It's super easy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Just fantastic attack on behalf of the Chinese hackers. My hat's off to you. Well done. Well played. Not even mad. And then for the IR people that found that that's how the hackers got it, also just nothing but top shelf.
But the font choice on this is pretty bad. You got to throw that out there.
The what?
The font choice is
But the hacker is smiling.
Comic Sans.
Yeah,
but the cute little hacker.
This is like whiteboard Sans. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I
like
will say like
unknown infection vector. That always makes me uncomfortable.
Okay, not to be like the guy that brings this up, but I have to like. This makes me think about the pen testing model because like none of these companies are none of these threat actors are targeting like, yeah, we scanned your IPv4 addresses. Like every threat actor now is like, who are your employees? We will compromise all of them and then look at all their stuff and eventually we'll get in. Like that seems to be the angle. Like I don't know. Just bringing it up.
Is that what you're saying? What about automated pen testing? I thought automated pen testing platforms would be able to find.
Well,
stuff like
if it's AI based, maybe.
Clearly.
Maybe if it's AI based.
Yeah, because clearly artificial intelligence pen testing isn't just running a nested scan, looking for criticals, cross-referencing it with Metasploit, and then trying to exploit things. Because that hasn't been.
That's
done.
what Storm 0558 is doing right now. They're actually going through exploit DB for Nginx 2.6 or whatever.
All right, so I got some more clarity here. It was an employee compromise, okay, and it was also a memory dump. Okay.
Once again, chef's kiss. Well done.
Right. Yeah, but the method is you just compromise as many employees as you can, and eventually one of them's going to have.
Hold on. Here's the better part. As Microsoft explained, right? This system, right, that has access to this signing certificate and stuff was not. It's like a walled garden, right? Like it's way off. It's not like I get access to this employee's workstation. I can get access to this system. But a couple of years ago, right, this system had a memory dump that was done, and that was on this engineer's system, right?
So fantastic.
Yes. So from
there was a fire 2 years ago, and that's why you had the file.
Yes.
That is so brutal.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, it reminds me. We had a test. I'm not going to say who the tester is to protect them, but they had this. I think it was like some conferencing system where there was a vulnerability where if you sent a malformed telnet packet to it, it actually dumped memory as part of the response back. And you would have to run it again and again and again and again and again and again. And kind of like Heartbleed, but for telnet,
yeah. Good times.
Different. And you had to do this again and again and again. And he spent all week working on it, right? Because he knew that somewhere in that memory dump from that data, the earliest vulnerability that I can think of is EtherLeak way back in like 2005. One of the first examples of these types of remote memory leak dumps. And worked on it, stressed on it, was just working so hard, so much progress is being made. And then he stopped talking to me about it completely for like 2-3 days. And I contacted him. I'm like, hey, how did that exploit go from that memory leak on that telnet server? And he's like, oh, I finally got it to work. And it was good. I was like, but did you get the password for the telnet server? He's like, yeah, I totally got the, I found it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what was the password? He's like, it was password.
Oh no.
as
Yeah, but did it have a little @ symbol?
I'm going to tell you that password was redacted in the report for sure.
I guess also in this breach, the dump, as in the memory dump, should have sanitized the password, but I guess there was an unknown race condition that prevented that from working properly. So like this is all kinds of like it's wild. Like, yes, it's compounding and like things.
Basically, they got really lucky. Their ops were good, but they got really lucky, which that's how pen testing feels sometimes. You're like, wait, really? You guys just dumped your secret server into a spreadsheet and it's still here 2 years later? All right. Like sometimes it happens.
I found that one time actually. I actually had that.
Oh yeah,
one time.
You do? You had that spreadsheet?
Yes.
Oh dear God.
We must have tested the same customer.
Where did you find that? And I'm like, it's right here on the shared drive that I could use as a regular user. And he's like, can everybody see that? And they went,
oh my God.
Yeah.
We definitely did the same customer. We did the same. We were on the same pen test.
I've had ones too where they just had they did like a secrets manager dump or they had done an audit before and they had all the MTLMs just in a text file. And then you just tell them, they're like, what? Where? Oh my God!
Or they have the key pass, but then they have key pass password.txt in the same directory.
The same test. I actually found we were able to get access to some of the admins, and they had their passwords saved in like Word documents for their password managers. So that was it was a really fun report to write.
That's awesome. I also think with this particular one, I just assume that there's a CISSP out there who calls themselves a CISP and doesn't know anything other than that, who's like, well, this is actually a violation of the Bell-LaPadula model that doesn't allow a higher security context to write down. If they would have implemented proper security controls, and you're just like, yep, keep going. I'm going to like run now at this point.
So with that sort of like compounding thing where it's vigor on the attacker side, right? And they're relentless, but they also kind of got lucky with a few things like went wrong in a chain of things, right? It's kind of like Jennifer was saying with APIs and stuff, somebody implements something that they just don't know. And then it just kind of sits there. Like what I see with web apps and APIs all the time is somebody did something, built it as a proof of concept for that web app, and 5 years have gone by. Nobody's touched that code or that area at all.
That is
and you just actually look there and you find something.
And most of the stuff I find with APIs like that, and that core concept is actually, I'm giving a lot of talks in the next several months. And I say a lot, I'm talking like more than 10. I'm talking a lot, but it's all kind of building up to something that I've been trying to share around the InfoSec community. It's called the Swiss cheese model of error. And for people who aren't familiar with that, in risk compliance and industrial and medical fields, the Swiss cheese model of error is the idea that no layer of security is 100%. They all have holes in them. And when catastrophe happens is when the Swiss cheese all lines up just right for something to get through the holes. And like this is a really good example of that. Everything lined up just right for that to work.
And then they nailed the bow shot right through all the hammer or right through all the axes. It was amazing. Once again,
right timing, right place. Yeah. So. I'd rather be lucky than smart. 100%.
I am. That's all I got. I'm just lucky, and it works for me.
But
and these are the types of scenarios that keep some of us on the blue team up all night, as we're sitting there going, "Where is that stupid hole that somebody's going to find on the luckiest shot of them all?" We know that it's there, and you can't convince anybody in the higher ups that no, there is no perfect security. We're doing the best that we can, and they're going, "Well, if we get breached, you're in trouble." And it keeps us up at night.
But Mike, I'm gonna throw that around real quick because Egypt has a quote. Anytime anyone that's on the blue team that's like, we have to be right 100% of the time, and the attackers just have to be right once. And his quote, I think, is like the best one ever. He said, "But as soon as the attacker breaks into your environment, that calculus changes," right? And with our red teams and our pen testers, it's 100% true because now the red teamers have to be 100% right or they're going to get detected. And that's a beautiful thing. That's kind of where our industry is now, where I'm talking to red teamers and they're like, to thread the needle to get around all of these EDR products, it requires them running slow. It requires them being very quiet. It requires them to be very careful. And that's a good thing because up like 5 years ago, it was not that way. Like it was literally once you're in, you're like, is just like thing 1 and thing 2 running around just smashing absolutely everything, and they wouldn't detect it. So improvements are being made, and I think that's because people like you are staying up at night, losing sleep.
Yes.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm one of the types that I focus more on detection than prevention. I know prevention is going to go around it.
The detection, that's exactly what I'm talking about, man.
It's getting the higher ups to understand that the detection is as important, if not more important, than the prevention. You're going to get breached. The question is for how long, and the detection can take that dwell time down if done properly.
I want to say that that's getting better. I'm saying that the higher ups, I believe that the higher ups in the vast majority of companies, if you're looking at the aggregate intelligence or infosec IQ of the management suite, it's going up. I'm not saying it's high. I'm not saying it's wonderful, but I think that more and more C-suite people, and I'd love to get some comments from the people on like YouTube and on Discord and all those places. What do you think? Do you think that your management, the management you're working with, the management you're seeing, do you think that they get it? I know that we are seeing it at Black Hills Information Security, where they understand that for our SOC customers, or they understand that from a pen testing perspective. But once again, that might be selection bias on our part. So what do you all think? Do you think it's getting better?
I've seen, John, in more conversations when I'm talking with customers, and the initial reaction when you're doing kind of like a rules of engagement call is like, no, we don't want to do this. We don't want to whitelist this. We don't want that. And once you've explained it to them and they take that to their C-level execs that can actually make the decision to pursue a certain action and test, I feel like more times than not, at least lately, they're more open to it. They're more open to understanding why it's more beneficial to do something one way and kind of overwrite the way they thought a pen test should be done. And
100%.
Just in general.
And one of the things that I've heard, and I've been on the red team side for a long time, so I don't know that much about normal pen testing, but on the red team side, we have customers, like I think we just need to dispel the illusion that technical findings are different than incident response findings. Like if your security controls are bad, that's bad. But guess what? If you didn't react properly or detect it properly, that's even potentially worse, right? Like, and I think C-suites are realizing when you're looking at this Microsoft breach, I mean, who knows what the government's going to do? They're going to be like, well, our emails got hacked, so whatever, we're switching to squirrel mail. I don't know. But most people reading this will say, well, Microsoft got hacked, but they actually did really well at generating a really high quality write-up, detecting it, eventually, like going back through all the logs and building this like crazy timeline and stuff. Like it's really about how you react. And that's where incident response stuff happens. Like the question isn't, did I guess the password? How bad is your password policy? Like, yeah, okay, we'll report it. But also when you change their password, did you detect the login event from a random VPS somewhere? Or when you change their password, did you also look at their consented apps or did you flip their other tokens, or did you roll their local AD password or just their cloud, or like all this other incident response stuff? All that is findings. It's not really something we're going to discover if we don't get into the environment, and it's not really technical. It's just basically we say you either reacted well or you reacted poorly, and it's judgment on our side whether how well we think you reacted. That's part of a pen test now, at least from my perspective, and that's just like what this Microsoft thing is. The technical controls are problematic, maybe. We don't know about the walled garden. We don't know about, like, did the machine have Defender? Like, or did it have, like, what did it have? How did it get popped? How did they get in? Yeah, I don't know.
So
but like,
I want to get some non-BHIS perspectives in. So Jennifer, what are you seeing? I really want to get some because it's just kind of an echo chamber, but are you seeing that at Secure Ideas that a lot of companies are getting it?
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot more. So I've been pen testing about 7. I have no idea how long time has worked, but I'm gonna say about 7 years, give or take. And since like the time that I've started to now, one thing that I really love on a pen test is when they detect me and I'm like, hey, will you share this with me? We'll make sure to include it in the screenshot or the report, because we want to show the areas where you guys did well, not just where you did bad. And it used to be that I would maybe get 1 or 2 times a year. They're like, oh yeah, we caught this, we saw this. And then last week we had a pen test where we got domain admin, and they caught it and had reached out to us within 30 minutes of us doing it. And I just love seeing stuff like that. I mean, I hate it, but also love
right?
it.
Like you guys report that and you're like, hey,
oh, absolutely.
This is a gold star, right?
Yes.
So John, I know that you guys don't do a lot of pen testing, but you definitely are like knee deep in security at Huntress. With your customers and the people that you're working with, are you seeing an improvement in like the C-suite and the executive suites and boards of directors, like understanding that concept of security of like, nah, there's probably going to be a breach. We're probably going to get hacked. And it's not like we got hacked. Whose head do I put on a spike? You know?
I think so. I think there is still room for improvement, but there's been like serious forward motion. I guess kind of when I jumped into the MSP, managed service provider space way back in 2020. So that's even like just 3 years. But we used to have like security just wasn't a conversation because it was just like a checkbox. Like, hey, whatever, sure, we'll buy the thing and put it in the closet and it's good. But now I think there is really, really great progress in just having it be the conversation.
And you now have conferences like Right of Boom that is MSP based, and it is absolutely focused on security and putting that all together. And I don't know, like 3-4 years ago, whenever you were first starting, like you said, just in that short period of time frame, you're actually seeing like there's been an improvement in the MSPs that are more interested in security, right?
The coolest thing for me, honestly, is just like their curiosity to try and understand and know more, so they like know the severity or gravitas or like whatever. Because like, sure, it's one thing, hey, we can say bad thing happened, malware over there, and we do what we do, right? But if they want to see like, well, what is it doing? What did you see? How did you find that? What's more of the story here? And like, that is so cool to me, because for one thing, look, you're holding the security things accountable, and you're interested and you're curious and you want to do and know more about it. That is just one of the coolest signs of forward motion to me.
And that curiosity is one of those things I think a lot of people in the infosec space, when they looked at the MSP space, they're like, yeah, the MSP people, they just want big red button and they want to deal with it. And that was kind of the pattern and the theme for like me being in security side of the shop for 15 years. And then I started working with you and Andrew and a bunch of really, really cool people in the MSP community. I'm like, yeah, it's not what I'm seeing here. Like seriously, the MSP space, there's a lot of people that are just like really solid. Like when we talk IR, a lot of people in the MSP space have probably done 2 to 3 times more incident response gigs than even IR people in security at like Mandiant, just because they're rotating them through so fast as well. So, all right.
You guys want to talk about someone getting caught instead?
Sure. Let's talk about getting caught. I'm down with that.
All right. So Qakbot got shut down, and the FBI released a beautifully edited video, not nearly as green screen as John's work.
Not that beautiful.
Not that beautiful. But so, and they pretty much shut down their operation. So that's all over. And
what is it called? Qakbot?
I'm pretty sure that's how you'd pronounce it.
That's the name of the malware. Yeah.
Yep. And the duck has been seized. And
they were playing Duck Duck Goose at their headquarters, and they found all the servers.
So they took down their infrastructure. They identified over 700,000 infected computers, including more than 200,000 in the United States. So the FBI took control of the servers and instructed the infected computers to download an uninstaller file. And removed the Qakbot malware from the computers. Kind of interesting. And then additionally, Troy Hunt put out...
the FBI gave him the data breach?
Yeah,
oh,
they
man,
gave
I'm so
him the
jealous.
data. So the FBI gave him the data for Have I Been Pwned? And it's now searchable on Have I Been Pwned.
That's so awesome.
FBI.
That is awesome.
Oh man, I need to, to get
you know,
that kind of
like to
access
see
where
out
the
of that.
FBI just gives me breaches.
White cyber duck is like, what about ducks?
You know, I'd like to see out of that is just even a categorization. When they say 200,000 in the U.S., what industry does that sort of fall into?
Mostly medical.
Grandmothers. No. It's private citizens.
Grandmothers, mom and pop shops.
I will tell you this, like seriously, looking at the Stealer logs data, which is what I do in my spare time because I hate myself, it is majority home PCs. Yeah. I mean, yes, because the truth is, and a lot of these have screenshots attached to them, and the screenshot is always a text file open that says disable defender, step 1, disable defender. Like it's very, it is what, like I've posted pictures of it jokingly in our red team chat and just been like, guys, we're overthinking this. Put a text file that says disable defender, execute payload, profit. Like that's basically what we're dealing with complexity wise, at least with Stealer malware. I don't know about Qakbot. I'll have to ask White Cyberduck. But basically, like it's not like, I mean, the exposure to companies is like the exposure to companies from any of their employees being breached. It's there, but from my perspective, if you're participating in this botnet as a company, I mean, we probably don't even know about you. You're probably like a trucking, like just off the map. You don't really have like a big internet presence.
So the other thing too, I think, if we want to talk about industries specifically, it's probably small businesses, ones that can't afford, hardly can afford IT, people, right? They just have a dude, let alone security, right? And maybe they only have 4 or 5 employees, right? But they're a super soft target. And, they work in, Corey just joked around about trucking, right? Or just some industry that has nothing to do with IT, but guess what? They still got emails. They still got to send invoices, all this.
They still got to work. And like a lot of those trucking companies, if they get shut down, that's bad.
That's a whole
when you go low enough down, everything is BYOD.
Yeah.
It's just like, I have a computer and now I work.
But there's my question about this is, if you can skim through this data and like you look at Have I Been Pwned? Have I Been Pwned has a bunch of data. A lot of that, bring your own ducks. Thanks, John.
Sorry about that.
Completely knocked me off base. But if you're working hard enough, you can totally find people whose personal computers are compromised and correlate them back to the company that they work for. And then you can ride that back in, right? I mean, it's just an issue of it's just putting in the effort to go through and do it.
And it's funny too, because of all these breaches and all this malware that is out there compromising all these systems, right? If you can get access to that and do a little bit of a search, you can start moving around your target and be like, oh, they work for this company, or this company, it looks like an employee's been compromised. I can make my way there. And then now you get into what it's called initial access brokers, where they will do that, make that move, and then sell that access off to someone else who monetizes it. So it's a whole, it's a whole marketplace out there for these kind of things.
Okay, so kind of on that note, right? Like, Corey was talking about, we're going to have some blogs and some webcasts coming up on the CLOP data. And one of the things I think that is interesting about the research that you've already put in, and Corey, I'd like you to talk about this, is the fact that a lot of the data isn't easily searchable, and there's tools that reporters use to go through breach data, and it doesn't have visibility into certain data types, and they might be missing a lot more damage that was actually done than what is initially reported. You want to talk a little bit about that in the last few minutes as kind of a teaser?
Yeah, and I mean, definitely the FBI is getting God level access, right? They're probably at the end of the day, it all boils down to the botnet's Postgres database or whatever it is that definitely has everything. And that's probably when you go kick down doors and grab hard drives, that's probably what you're getting. But looking at it from the OSINT perspective, with the CLOP data, it's just dumps from file transfer appliances. So what I'm doing, and this is a terrible idea, but other people should be doing it too, is I'm loading it all into a tool called Aleph, which is a journalist tool that's basically does OCR and other analysis on just any files. You can just throw anything at it. It could be a backup of a server, or it could be a PDF or a spreadsheet or whatever.
Crash dump of a CA server.
It could be a crash dump of an API server with a key in it. But it isn't perfect, but essentially the number of emails you would get if you ran a text search versus OCRing, 50,000 PDFs and looking in that data, it's a completely different data set. So it kind of changes the script on how these data sets are analyzed, how we're doing them. From my perspective, I don't really know what I'm doing, but every time I go out and look and research and read books, no one else appears to know what they're doing either, and we're all just kind of winging it in this world of data breach analysis or OSINT or whatever. So it really is just kind of a fun little thing.
John had a good question. It's ALF data, ALEPH, like ALF1.
Yeah, there is it's something that most OSINT people would know, because there is a public version of this software that has Panama Papers, company registries, like it's which it's like I think it's left.occrp.org or something.
We just lost John Hemmen for 2 weeks.
See you later, guys. It was really cool hanging out with you.
Yeah, John, I'll give you access to the server, but yeah, basically like it's just I'm going in here and just being like, I don't know, let's look at some emails. And then I'm like, that was a bad idea. This is weird.
There's so many emails. By the way, I totally, as owner of BHIS, approve John looking at the data.
I like it. Yeah, this has turned into a work meeting now.
Yeah,
sorry for all the podcast viewers.
There's too much. There's too much.
No, that's the funny part, John, is that me and Corey are always debating about buying hard drives to store more.
I already approved it for cloud. Like you said,
because we're
last week.
Yeah,
it's something like $600 a month, and I'm like, hit yes on that.
Yeah,
so
and the data is public. It is absolutely public. So it's not like we're breaching our customers' trust or whatever.
We've got to table that though, but we've got to talk about that. Can we start with that next week? Because that gets into a bigger issue when you have so many data breaches that if you get compromised, it's now a mega data breach.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
At what point do you have to start adhering to HIPAA and PCI and all of that?
It's seriously like that's basically the working title of my blog post is like everyone is affected by this breach. Like I don't care who you are, in some way you're affected, or what company you work for. Like because it's just the size of it and all the different interconnections between companies. Like it's brutal. But yeah, I mean it's one of those things. It's like the NSA capturing all of our data or whatever. It's like, how good are they at searching through it? Like, can they actually find my pictures of my cats? Like, how did they encode it?
Yes.
How did is it like, I don't know,
to.
it just gets into all these crazy, scenarios.
And that's when they'll start targeting it and narrowing down what they're actually looking for. Like, there's no way they're going through all of that as they get it or capture anything like that. They have to draw a circle and say everybody who's kind of doing this thing and then narrow down through that. And as further and further you go down the rabbit hole, then they start to find what they're looking for. I mean, it's randomness as much as it is targeted.
But and that's like the crazy thing about data breaches is that like it's the same thing as anything else where the data's out there. It's just, is anyone going to be able to find it? Is anyone how long would it take for someone to find your secret Instagram where you only post pictures of waffles or whatever and be like, this is them, and they have all their secret info on here? Like it could be done. How much effort? I don't know. It's the same thing with all other security. Is there an undocumented API that would get me into your company? Probably. How much time will it take me to find it? Probably a lot.
Long time. All right.
And how did you know about my secret waffle?
We didn't mean to disclose it. Sorry.
Listen, I took an OSINT class. Okay, sorry.
It was a good one.
All right. So let's wrap it up. I want to say thank you very much for Jennifer. We had BSD on for a little while. We got John as well. I just want to say, once again, this is brought to you by Black Hills Information Security. If you need a pen test, please check out BHIS. If you need 2 pen tests, do me a favor and check out Secure Ideas. Kevin's like a brother from another mother. Seriously, I've cried with that man. We've been through hell together, and the company is absolutely top shelf. So please check out Secure Ideas and check out Jennifer's class. If you're looking for an API pen testing class that starts tomorrow, now is the time to get set.
Find those undocumented APIs.
Yeah,
go get them. And then also, John, as always, you could find him on YouTube, but you know who he is. But also, more importantly, let's talk about good companies as well. I absolutely love Huntress, and they don't pay me a dime at all. But I want to call out that Huntress is an awesome, awesome company. I got to meet the CEO. He's super cool. Great vibe from him as well. But if you want to see something cool and you're like, what's this Huntress thing? I've been working in security and not so much in MSP. I've maybe seen some of their signs. Check out Huntress's Neighborhood Watch program. And they are truly on the front lines of trying to defend. We talk about who's watching the watchers. Huntress has got your back, folks. So go check out the Neighborhood Watch program. We absolutely love them. John, thank you so much for coming on. Jennifer, thanks you so much for coming on. BHIS folks, thanks for coming on. And Mike, as always, I really love you being here, man. Thank you so much. And with that, take us out with the crooked finger, Ryan. See you later, everybody.